Doing well today. Happy Monday. If you were like me, you have been watching most of the morning. You were watching the Queen's funeral procession and all of that jazz. We'll get into that shortly. That is going to be the main topic of today's program. Um, but while we're waiting on folks to join, Cooped Up is my website. You can check that out anytime. I'm Cooped Up is my handle on all the social places. Would love a follow. If you are on Instagram in particular, that would be a great place to start. And be it wherever you watch or listen to this. This is broadcast on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, as well as rebroadcast on all of the major podcasting platforms and audio format. So click the bell, subscribe, whatever it is, so that you don't miss a minute of it. With that, let's get rolling. Hey, Mama, how you doing? Good to see you. Hi, Eric. Happy day. All the queens are out today. Well, actually, or gone. So I started this morning with turning on the TV. I did not see, let me preface all of this. I did not see the very beginning of all of the Queen stuff. I'm watching that on the rebroadcast on PBS later tonight, or this evening. They are airing all of the BBC's coverage of the Queen's funeral, the processions, all that kind of stuff. I turned it on, and they were midway from Westminster Abbey to, or is it? Yeah, Westminster Abbey, I think. Yeah, that's the right thing. To that park where they were switching out and then going out to Windsor Castle and all of that. So I missed the main big funeral. I'm going to catch up on that tonight. But I saw the rest. And let me just say, those English people, they may not know how to take care of their teeth, but they have got pomp and pageantry down pat. Like, I love that alliteration there. Yeah, it was so beautiful. I watched it most of the morning. I had it on. I just had my iPad. I had my direct TV stream subscription going here. So I had it on while I was doing work and stuff. Took it to me to the bathroom. When I took a shower, I jumped in the shower real quick and had it on the counter, listening to it, and then watched it as I was getting ready and all that kind of stuff. So Beth is saying, I'm so glad they were re-airing. I got on when they were in the Westminster. Yeah. So they are, I think it is, I don't know what time it is, so you have to look, but at least here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, KERA Channel 13 is re-airing the BBC coverage that they ran this morning. Hey, Sandy, and hey, Beth. So some observations from the day. First of all, it is so very, very, very British that not a single person seemed to cry. I watched it for hours. Like I said, I didn't see the main service. I'm going to watch that later. But from the processions to the private service to all of the other things, dry eyes across the board. Granted, they've been saying goodbye for like a week and a half at this point. So maybe that's part of it. But yeah, just stiff upper lip. No crazy. I think the most misty looking person that I saw was Meghan Markle, the American, which does track because I think that a lot of us watching it, I actually did not cry at any part of it. I just thought it was beautiful and I enjoyed watching it. But I have a lot of friends who said they cried when they brought the corgis out to be passed for the last time. I can see where people would have cried when like she passed her horse. They had her horse there to see her for the last time, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, so started this morning, and basically when we turned it on this morning, it was the bottom, bum, 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 bottom, bum, 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 bottom, or whatever the beat was. That beat was so difficult, by the way. So when we were getting, because we're weirdos here in the House of Koch, the kids and I were pretending to only walk to that beat. Like as we were getting ready for school, getting breakfast made, packing up, we were only taking steps to that beat. Hard to do. It was a weird beat because it wasn't slow. It wasn't so slow that you could take a step, put your foot together, take a step, put your foot together. It was a walking beat, but it was also not very fast. So you kind of felt like you were like falling on yourself. I talked to Carrie about it earlier, and she mentioned that it was kind of like a half beat or something like that. I don't remember the word she used, but she said that she was watching on CNN. I think they provided a lot more commentary during it than the BBC, which is one of the reasons why I love the BBC. There was just limited commentary during it, and theirs wasn't like projecting as much. But the horses were actually having trouble with the beat too, because it was like there was a metronome. I don't know where it was, if it was in people's ears, if it was on something. I don't know about that, but I just know that beat was hard to walk to. And I'll tell you, you immediately went in a sea of hundreds of various military people, dignitaries, royals, all that stuff. You immediately had a front row seat to the rhythmically challenged. Those who could not keep the beat, it was like so obvious when they were off the beat, like their steps were wrong or whatever. And I think it's hard to get back on the beat once you're so off the beat. I don't know. I've always been an on the beat person, but yeah. But it was a beautiful morning. A lot of people were like, "Oh my God, is this ever going to end?" I admit, by the end of it, I was texting Carrie. I was like, "Is that it? I got shit to do. Is that it? I need to go." Carrie was like, "I gotta pee." She just didn't want to miss any of it. But I had, there were a couple of moments where I'm like holding my breath. Basically, at any point where they required the pallbearers to move the casket from one type of vehicle to another type of vehicle or up a staircase. So they took it from when I was seeing it. I did not see them put it on the carriage. I assumed that they put it on the carriage at some point before I tuned in at like 6:30 in the morning. But when they pulled it off the carriage and then put it into the fabulous Jag hearse, by the way, that Jag was like money. I love all the cars. Oh my God. Give me a motorcade of Range Rovers and just, I can say something dirty about that. It was hot. So put her in that hearse. I'm like holding my breath, catching my breath, watching them do that. And there's 8 of them. And I don't know how much you know about this. That casket is lead lined, first of all. And they predict that it is between 550 and 700 pounds. It is lead lined to slow down the decomposition process. And I'm guessing that's really important because she laid in state for like 10 days, right? Even a embalmed body, I'm like, ugh. And who knows if she was actually embalmed? I don't think anyone. I think there are things that we will only know if we are told specifically. I don't know that there's a protocol about that. But in the lead casket, I mean, poor little bit only weighed probably like 98 pounds at her heaviest lately. But that casket was up to 700 pounds. It was built 30 years ago. Isn't that crazy? Built 30 years ago. English pine, I believe they said it's made, or oak. English something. Everything is symbolic. You know how that is. But it took 8 of these strapping young men, some were pretty fine, to carry it. And the way they carried it is they put their hand on each other's shoulders and like to let it lay between their arms, and then they were holding it like this. It was fascinating. So they get it in the Jag. The Jag was custom made for this. It's gorgeous. I want that Jag hearse at my funeral. Yes, same. And then they drove through the countryside out to Windsor Castle. And then at Windsor Castle, they had to then pull it out of the hearse, raise it up, and then they had to walk it up a bunch of fucking stairs. I'm guessing they did bring it downstairs from the previous, the Westminster Abbey. Although, if memory serves, Westminster Abbey does not have a lot of stairs on the front of it. It's been a while since I was there, but I don't recall it having a lot of stairs. But like this Windsor Castle did, like they had to go up almost like the first floor was like a second floor, up these stairs. And, as they're going, you're like, are they gonna drop it? I mean, can you imagine if they had dropped her? Can you imagine? I mean, and they've been rehearsing this for days. Like they've been leaks like on TikTok and stuff like that of at like 4 a.m, 3 a.m, doing this entire funeral procession. Like it is rehearsed. But how creepy to go outside at 4 o'clock in the morning and it is dead outside, and then you just see this funeral procession going with full sound and everything. Like it was not a quiet thing. But you know, I've got so much on my card, I'm like losing track of my stuff. The guards, the part of me, I was like, oh my God, what if that shit falls off the top of it? Because they have the orb and they have the scepter and they have the crown. Well, it turns out all of them were screwed to the top of it. There's another TikTok video, and I noticed it in the thing when they were kind of messing with it. They had like spikes or holes in the casket, depending on which item it was, where like they either went into it or it went into those things to keep them steady. And so they took those off at the end. That was that was actually probably the most touching moment for me. It was when they were taking all the stuff off and holding it. And at that point, basically, she did not have any of her regalia as the big main things as the monarch. And yeah, so I bet a lot of people who were involved in this, though, like the minute their part of the job was done, they were like, oh, thank God that is over. I mean, it was all in service to the queen, and like you're very proud to be involved, but with just all the eyes on you and the pressure. I mean, literally, there was at one point where I don't know if it was the Archbishop or something. I think it was the Archbishop of Canterbury was taking the orb, which is just this round thing, and he's putting it on the table at the end, and you can just see his hands shaking. And I don't think it was age because he didn't do it as much with the other stuff, but just worried so much that they're gonna fuck it up. Yeah. So that is so people stood outside in line for miles to see it. I heard they were gonna shut it off at some point, like last night at like 8 o'clock. I don't know if everyone in line got to see her or not. I've not had a chance to look that up. But tons of people along the route just watching and waiting to to be able to see her pass and give last respect. Can you imagine if this were in July? You know, they had that heat wave in July, and it was hotter there than it is here in Texas. And they have humidity like nobody's business there. It's like Houston humidity, like thick in London when it is summertime. I did check the weather today, and their high was 82 degrees today, and the low was 49. So they were okay, but man, if she had died in like June or July, there'd have been some people melting. I also found it interesting that, you know, well, I was originally going to say, well, you just don't really see any security. You're going to say, well, it helps when there's like 2,000 armed military people in your parade. I'm guessing that keeps people away. But occasionally you would see some like heavily armed people stepping into the camera shots, and then you could tell that they were told, hey, you're in the camera shot, and to get out of the camera shot. Like big, like all in black with big guns and stuff like that. But so many guns in this thing too. And it was her casket was pulled. I think it was by, did I see that was 200? It was a lot of guys, and they're all new recruits. Most of them have only been in the service for like 2 months, 2 or 3 months, I think is what I saw. So I bet all people involved with this funeral will collapse in a heap tomorrow. I know Eric, I'm thinking the same thing. And also just even the family, the royal family, because they had to be at all of these things. And so after she left, whatever that park was called, I can't remember what the park was called, where they transferred from the hearse, or from the wagon, from the carriage rather, to the hearse. Like from that point on, as soon as they left, they had to race basically Queen Elizabeth's hearse, which wasn't traveling too terribly fast and had to slow down a lot through the little towns, but to get to Windsor Castle, because they needed to be there and ready and all of that before all those people got there. Now, I'm sure certainly helicopters were involved or something like that. But man, just the go part of it was crazy. It was the first time that Princess Charlotte has ever worn a hat in public. I thought that was really cute. And Prince, what's the little one's name? Whatever the now third in line for the throne. It was he was wearing a navy blue suit, and some people were like, well, why is he wearing a navy blue suit? I did see some people saying that. Turns out that in protocol, if you were young, navy blue as an important Louis. Yes, sorry, thank you, Monica. Navy blue as an appropriate. Bleh. It's appropriate to wear navy blue, just as appropriate as it is to wear black. God, I couldn't get that out. But yes, I think it was Louis, the older. No, George. George is the one. I think is George. George is the older one. My brain. I tell you, this is. I hope this isn't like a sign of Alzheimer's or something. But the names are what fall out of my head like nobody's business anymore. It's George, not Louis. Yes, George. Thank you, Monica. Eric was saying I was underwhelmed by Jill Biden's choice of headwear. I have not seen it yet. I don't even know anything about that. Here's my thing, though. Queen Camilla is going to need to turn it up. She is so boring. Boring. And I know we're comparing her to the glamorous Diana. And even if you're not comparing her to Diana's been gone 25 years. Just boring. Just boring. It's like, girl, people want to look to the crown for a little bit of glamour. Now, granted, maybe your mother-in-law's funeral and time to be like, woo. But anyway, I just think that she needs to turn it up. Also, I didn't realize how old Camilla and Charles look. Like, at first I was like, have they aged a lot since all of this went down? Like, did they, like, has this 10-day mourning period just like aged the crap out of them? But I actually have a different theory. I don't think that they have aged that much. I think we've just never looked at them that closely because they were always second line. And honestly, Queen Elizabeth eclipsed every situation. And when it wasn't Queen Elizabeth, it just jumped to a more glamorous person like Kate or Meghan or one of them. So Camilla is old. She isn't going to change anything now. I know. And Gary's mom always said the same about her. Yes. Which is funny because in The Crown, Camilla is played by this like really pretty actress who has kind of like some panache and style and all. She's a little suburban, but like she's maybe not as showy as Diana was, but Diana was also way younger. I think isn't Camilla actually like Charles's age, whereas Diana was like 20 and he was already like 32 or 33 when they got married. But just girl, Elizabeth traveled all of the places today. Carrie and I were and again, back to I was just so nervous for those pallbearers. And basically anytime anyone had to be like on point, like they had to do something specifically. Here's something though, at the final service, the one at St. George's Cathedral or Chapel, whatever it was called, Chapel, I think, where they had the smaller one, so it like 300 people at it, the smaller service, and they lowered her into the crypt below. Throughout the broadcast and in days prior, they've been talking about there's this one thing that's going to happen that's probably going to be weird to people. It's where this particular guy, I don't know who he is, this particular guy gets up and he has this stick. And I was thinking it was like a big walking stick, like a big, like a sage kind of thing or whatever. And the stick gets broken. And then that broken stick gets put in with the coffin and lowered, right? And so there's some symbolism. Everything has symbolism. There's some symbolism around that. And so I was like, ooh, when are we going to see the white stick get broken? When are we going to see that? When are we going to see that? Like I was ready for like this like really kind of weird eccentric thing. It turns out he walks his ass up there. It was like a white balsa wood pool cue. It's the only part of the whole thing that disappointed me. This balsa wood looking pool cue up, and then he just snaps it in half, like with two hands, like nothing big. Like I was expecting it to have to be done over a bar or his knee or slammed. Like I was expecting something dramatic to happen. And it was just like, I mean, like a toothpick. Like looked like an oversized toothpick that was painted white. And then they just tucked it under one of the pillows, and that's that. So, but yeah. And that poor guy. Oh yes, that poor yeah. Carrie's like, not me texting Cooper because this did happen. What's about to happen with the pool sticks? Yes, I mean it was just the weirdest, like most anticlimactic because they've been talking about it. Like for Americans watching, this may be an unusual thing. So I'm wondering if historically, granted, this has not happened for over 70 years, but historically, maybe that was a bigger deal. Maybe because this is the first one that's ever been televised. Keep that in mind also. And most of this one was actually not even supposed to be televised, or didn't have to be. Prince Charles or King Charles brought in the cameras to places, to events, to elements of it that previously would have never been aired. In the protocol, it does not require, like he's going to, at his coronation, so he's going to be, whenever that is, it's coming up soon. Typically, coronations are private events. They are not public. They may have broadcast, I think hers got broadcast over the radio, but he has chosen to have TV cameras in the room. Maybe Charles's sausage hands, fingers couldn't take much more than a snap. I know. And they all walked with sticks. Yes, well, if you had to walk that slow too, dun, 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 for miles, I was just like, what in the world? Did you know there's a protocol on fainting? I'm sure they had to, like, what if someone faints? What if someone does this? What if someone does that? Didn't a guard faint? Like, didn't he have his knees locked or something and he collapsed when she was lying in state? I believe the kids were showing me something about that. And it reminded me of when I was in choir and they were like, do not lock your legs. Do not lock your legs. You're going to pass out. You're going to faint if you lock your legs. Sure enough, someone, not me, but somebody had their knees locked, like straight-legged, and they fainted. Carrie and I were also texting about at the smaller service at St. George's Chapel, the poor guy who had to hold the orb in one hand, and that thing looked heavy. The first guy grabbed it with both hands, and it was just like, it looked really heavy. And then handed it to this other guy, and he has to hold it like the scepter in one hand and the thing in the other for like 5 minutes. I'm like, do you think he worked out for that? I'm sure he prepped. Because certainly, again, everything is rehearsed. They faint. That's the protocol for fainting, Monica. They faint forward, face down, arms just like splat. And the guard, when she was lying in state and he smacked the pavement hard, they stood him back up and he tried to keep going, started swirling the drain, so they escorted him away. That's crazy. I've only seen that since. I did not see, like, on TikTok. I think the kids showed it to me, something about it. So, what was y'all's favorite part? I do like I thought the music, even though the beat kind of droned on forever, the music was nice. I thought it was really neat how every minute they a cannon, and then there was a chime every minute during the procession. And I couldn't tell, was it every minute within earshot of where the casket was, or was it every minute like countrywide? Because they did it when she was going through the streets of London, and you could hear it in the background every minute. And then when they were in Windsor, also you could hear it as well. So orb holding could be a challenge on Survivor. I tell you, that looked heavy. I just I was just waiting on one of those boys to drop her going, I know. I mean, just seriously, Aaron, that was holding my breath so much, because they would bring it up and then level it off. And because we know that it was between 550 and 700 pounds, that box, Now, I'm convinced that that's also why they had 8 people carrying it, and then a few more, like, there was a guy in the back kinda had his hand on it. Poor Elizabeth was probably sliding around in that box. Can you imagine? Like, what if she was starting to rattle around in there and they're carrying it? And so, um, yeah, I just think it's crazy. Also, can we talk about Princess Anne for a minute? I don't believe she is lesbian. I think she is married. She may even have her second. I think she might even be on her second husband. And I know she has children, but the lesbian realness that she was given off in that military outfit with the pants, and she always has had that really severe short hair and the military hat and all of that kind of stuff. I'm like, I know 63 lesbians who are going to go as her for Halloween. And actually probably 63 gay men too. So also all but one of those pallbearers got a haircut. Like he had to be the straight one. Yes. Some of them were cutie pies too. Monica was texting me about this earlier. And I'm still surprised the horses didn't have poo bags. There was poop all over the walking procession. I didn't notice that, but maybe you're more agriculturally and horticulturally involved in things than I am. And maybe they figured it out by then, or maybe the horses just had nothing left at that point. Because I think I started watching it after you stopped watching it. I think you saw the early part of the procession. I saw kind of the middle and then towards the end. It ended at 11 o'clock Central Time. And they had it down. I mean, were any of the other states, so I only literally watched it on KRA, the PBS station. Were any of the other folks breaking into commercial at all? Also, I want to know how much commentary was happening. Like, were Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie narrating the whole thing like it was a Olympic ceremony or a Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade with the whispering? That symbolizes the blah, blah, blah. BBC did have some people narrating it, but it was more like now they're turning the corner to the Long Walk. That's the name of the road going up to Windsor Castle. It's about 2 miles long. The end. They weren't like, and every step is agonizing is the next, and it's on a 6% grade, and blah, blah, blah. There was one point, though, where it had to slow down. Everyone just kind of marched in place for a little bit because they started going uphill, and I think they were having some trouble. Didn't Princess Anne date Queen Camilla's ex-husband? I think you're right. Or maybe not the ex-husband, but maybe there was a connection, like she was friends with them or something. Because in The Crown, granted, and The Crown is fiction, but it's based on truth. Basically, they fictionalized the way people deal with real things that happen. Queen Anne was like super involved in knowing all of the dealings of it. Supposedly, she is King Charles's like number one confidant and has always been like his number one. So it was hard to watch on NBC because the bells continuously rang in London. So I didn't know this. I must have seen it after all of that. I heard just the bells occasionally. I stopped when I was leaving. He headed to the park thing, I think is what they said, when she was leaving. Yeah, so I picked it up before she got to the park. I did think that it was really, really sweet. So they go around and they went past Buckingham Palace. I don't know if you saw that part. But when they passed Buckingham Palace, all of the staff of the house was out in a line. So they really, really did a good job of making sure that everyone that she interacted with, helped her, was in service to her, whether they actually knew her or not, or vice versa, probably, that they had a chance to have a moment of silence with her. So, yeah. There was one thing that annoyed me, and I'm actually going to talk about this tomorrow, but I'll talk about it a little bit right now. The phones. I don't know if it is age for me or what, but for some reason in the last like 2 to 3 years, increasingly seeing everyone in the world watching everything through their phone and video recording it. Like, for what? I mean, I guess to post on Instagram, I don't know. But the phones, so many phones. I also thought it was interesting how certain people chose to applaud and certain people, BBC kind of threw some shade. They were like, some people are applauding and some people are choosing to stand in dignified silence. I was like, wow, that's a loaded statement right there. So, anyway, uh, she was the Queen's too. Who are you talking about? I don't know what that was in relation to, Monica. Okay, well, that is. I had a very full. I even had to write it on the short side because I had so much on my card to talk about today. So, alrighty, let me look at the comments real quick and make sure I didn't miss any of y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, and I guess that's it, right? I mean, the only thing left of this royal business is going to be the coronation. The coronation is going to happen. I don't know when that is. Did you see when the coronation is, Carrie? When is the coronation of Prince Charles? Let's see, or King Charles, actually, is probably what it should say. Oh, well, that's interesting. It is saying that it just will probably happen within the next year. So sometime before the fall of 2023. What? Man, they're actually speculating. The Telegraph is speculating that it will be held next spring and summer and may even take place on the 70th anniversary of the Queen's coronation. That would track because they love anniversaries and stuff like that. But whoa, that is so he can be king for all of this time because I guess through heredity he already is, but they don't have to actually do the coronation until that's unusual to me. So okay, Carrie's saying they usually wait a while. Yes, I would think though in the modern times that things would have gone a little faster than a year from now. So alrighty, well with that I'm gonna say bye. I love you. It's important to know you are loved. What happens if he passes before then? Monica says, well, he's king. He's already king right now. So he just doesn't have the official ceremony. And I think that Wills has to get a ceremony also to be Prince of Wales. I think he has to go have a coronation in Wales as well. So that'll so there's still they love a reason to create bank holidays. Yes. My kids were like, why aren't we off today? And I'm like, she's not our monarch. But we loved her. I was like, yeah, but America kind of has a conflicted relationship with monarchies, considering we used to be under that one. So anyway. Alrighty, again, I love you. It's important to know you are loved. I love that you watched this. Thank you so much for letting me externally process my feelings every day for your enjoyment and my cathartic relief. I will be here tomorrow at 4:30 for another episode of Cooped Up Live. Can't wait to see you then. Talk to you later. Bye.